dear Dhamma friends, we have come to the last question and answer session of this Kalalgoda English Medium retreat. So I think we have some written questions. We'll start with the written questions.
We have 7 questions to give answer.
Yeah.
Dear Venerable Sir, walking meditation. I was able to retain awareness on the sensations of the feet for longer periods. Got carried away by thoughts from time to time, but kept bringing my mind back to the present moment. Sitting meditation. I am able to retain awareness of the body sensations in the present moment for considerable time or periods. But awareness of breathing at the nostrils and chest movement is transient, and I tend to get involved in it whenever I put my attention there. And then it disappears. Questions. Number 1. Awareness of breathing sensations. Nostrils is transient, and since I tend to interfere with the breathing whenever I place my awareness on it, should I just be there of the present moment despite whatever sensations arise in the body?
How many questions are there? We'll ask them.
So basically, now the question is that you are capable of doing it in the walking, that is smooth and you can do it for a long period, and now you are capable of keeping your attention on the breathing sensations, and there it is very transient, and basically this transience is something that we can expect. Because when compared to walking meditation, the sitting meditation, you have some very refined mindfulness. Say, during the walking time, we have a little gross sort of experience, but in the sitting environment, once you are sitting, so you have very refined mindfulness, your faculties are very sharp, and as a result, even very subtle sensations appear very intense, and you can clearly see them, and even very tiny ones you can see clearly. So you will experience many sensations, many smaller or little or tiny experiences, tiny sensations, as well as certain gross experiences. So whatever they are, you are observing, and as a result you will see that they are coming and going, very transient, very vulnerable. All these things are certain kind of insights. So you don't need to ignore them. Now at the beginning, anyway, when we are drawing fair amount of concentration, we are not going to look at all these aspects. Rather, we try to develop fair amount of mindfulness and concentration. There, we simply somewhat narrow down our attention only to the nostril, only to the breath. But later, once you have developed mindfulness, say you are now capable of maintaining your attention at the nostril for a considerable period of time, say 15 minutes, 20 minutes, now you can maintain your attention there. So that's an indication that you have now gained some amount of concentration. So with that concentration, when you are observing throughout the body, so these different sensations coming and going, very transient. So that's a kind of an insight, that's a kind of an understanding that you are getting through this observation. So we don't need to expect the other side. Rather, if we see that they are really transient, so that is a understanding. So nothing to worry. Yeah.
Question number 2. Is there a disadvantage in observing chest movements compared to observing the movements of air at the nostrils? How do we decide which is the best for us if the mind keeps going to both from time to time?
The idea is now when we are paying more attention at the breath, so it is if we consider the element characteristics, more it is into the air element. But on the other hand, when we are paying our attention to the chest, that is if we are considering some sort of, if we are feeling some kind of a stiffness, kind of a hardness, then we are moving to the earth element. So there are certain disadvantages at the beginning. Say if you are trying to focus more into the earth element, it can further become stiff. It can very much like strict or tight, so that can become somewhat uncomfortable in the long run. So at the beginning, so it is much easier to maintain your attention on the breath, which is much familiar, and there's a movement, there's the air passage is moving, and that is much easier to establish mindfulness. And once mindfulness is established, now suppose the breath has almost disappeared, but now assume that you have various vibrations, various sensations all around the body. Now you can observe them. Similarly, this whatever the sensation happen in the chest, also another part of sensations. So that also included. At such occasion, you don't need to neglect that. Rather, you can even include that. So one practical issue is more, if you are only selecting one particular characteristics of the 4 elements, so that might aggravate, and you might end up with some sort of a say, if you are selecting earth element, that might lead more into some sort of a tightness. On the other hand, if you are completely on the air element, it might lead to some kind of a vibration, some kind of a movement throughout the whole body, like you are swaying around or something like that, so it can increase. On the other hand, suppose you are continuously paying attention to the heat element, Thero, then you might end up with even, say, sweating and somewhat uncomfortable. So we have to time change these elements, and that then we will have a kind of a balanced approach where all the elements are paid attention, and you can maintain mindfulness for a long period of time, because we are paying attention to different characteristics, and time to time they come forward, and we are welcoming that. And we are not strict to any particular characteristic, and we are changing our object. So that sense, that approach is much better rather than stricting ourselves to one particular one. So the answer to this question is, at the beginning only try to focus on the breath, but later once you have fair amount of mindfulness concentration developed, then you are free to even select this chest movement.
In a past meditation sitting, I came to an empty space where I was alert, but no sight, smells, taste, body feelings or sounds. I was just there. I was wondering whether this is what you described in the sermon yesterday as finding an island and to make much of it. Or is it something insignificant? May the Triple Gem bless you.
So actually I need to ask a couple of questions. May I know who has written this? Nobody? So basically, I mean, we need to recognize, because there are certain unknown areas which can even happen through at the initial stages. But what we were discussing yesterday is somewhat related to the Vipassana, where you end up with some sort of a unassociated, free kind of a state, unbounded kind of state, which is very much a combination of mindfulness and wisdom. I mean, once you develop wisdom, then there's a possibility that mind starts some kind of a dispassion towards the process, what is observing, what is it is observing, and as a result, some sort of a disengagement happen, and as a result, kind of a freedom happen, kind of a complete letting go might happen. On such occasion, this what we discussed on yesterday can happen. That is where typically we call as anisita. Where we are not, the mind is not associating any sort of a thing, not related to the sights, not sounds, not taste, not smells, not any tangibles, and there are no thoughts even, and mind is very much empty. So when one is approaching that systematically, so one can repeat it, one can come to that place again and again, and one has to make it abundant, make it available for you more and more, and you can stay there longer periods. So likewise, there's a kind of a gradual approach, systematic approach to come to that place. So that is what we are trying to explain on yesterday.
Thero and Nissarana. I have been doing walking meditation for about 3 years and not achieved any samadhi. To me, it is still like a physical exercise. Kindly let me know where to keep my mind and what to look for in walking meditation.
So it's a free exercise, nothing to worry. So actually, just to refer Buddha's words, there are 5 benefits Buddha has mentioned in one sutta called Chankamananisansa Sutta in Anguttara Nikaya. Buddha says Adhana Kamo Hoti, that very much related to the exercise, that when we are doing more walking, so there you get the skill to go for a long walk. You know, in the old days, mostly the walking is the main method of transport. So you can walk for long distance if you do walking meditation. That is one benefit. Adhana Kamo Hoti. Then Padhana Kamo Hoti, that means say you can strive. Say the whole meditation has ups and downs. So you have to encounter various obstacles. On such situation, without giving it up, so you are having the strength to continue. So there may be various issues coming on your way, obstacles coming on your way, but still you have the energy, courage to continue, and that strength actually coming from the walking meditation. Adhana Kamo Hoti, Padhana Kamo Hoti. Then Asite Pite Kaite Saite Samma Parinamam Gacchati. So whatever you ate, drank, so they easily digest because you are in a kind of a movement. So as a result, the digestion happens properly. And then Appabado Hoti, your body becomes less prone to ills. So you become more healthy. And last, Buddha says, Chankamadhigato Samadhi Chidattitiko Hoti. So whatever the concentration build up in walking meditation become or last longer. Now, actually we are not expecting very refined concentration through walking meditation. Say for example, if you are sitting cross-legged in a sitting posture, you might go to very deeper sort of concentration. So that may not happen in the walking. But instead what is more important is that your mind is not drifting from your posture. Say, typically our mind wanders towards the past and stay there for a long time, and then it goes to the future and dreaming and planning, and there it stays longer time. But if you are doing walking meditation, more your mind stays with your posture, that is the walking. Say when your left foot is touching the ground, when it is lifting, moving, that whole process is mindfully observed. So your attention is very much captured in that process, limited to that process. And on the other hand, say when your right leg is lifting, moving, placing, and when you are touching the ground, that whole process being observed, your attention being captured there, aimed there. So it doesn't appear much, but still if you recognize, so your attention is now confined to a very neutral experience rather than going for any kind of excitement, any kind of elation, any kind of a very say very excited, very say ripple kind of experience. Rather here it's a very neutral experience, very ordinary experience. Now simply we are walking, but walking becomes the anchoring point for your attention. So neutral experience become kind of a help for you to grow mindfulness, because this neutral experience is less prone to defilements, and you are developing fair amount of effort because this is not much interested at the beginning. Again and again you have to bring your attention back to this process. So as a result, effort develops, and again later on, suppose you are capable of doing this successfully from this end to the other end to this end. Likewise, several cycles without any distraction, suppose you are capable of maintaining your attention. Then you can go to the next stage. Suppose you are doing any kind of noting, left, right, or lifting, moving, placing, some kind of such kind of labeling. Now you can avoid labeling, discard labeling, and simply see whether your mind can maintain only on the experience. That means you now have a very quiet mind, completely experiencing or observing this ongoing process. So this is really calming down. So your mind becomes very peaceful due to that, because it's not talking now. There is no inner chatter. Mind is very calm, and this calm mind then and there observing different sensations, different element characteristics. So you may not have very deep samadhi, deep concentration, doesn't matter, but important thing to understand is now mind is not distracted, rather it stays where we want. We want it to stay on the left foot, it stays there. We want it to stay on the right foot, it stays there. And not only that, now we are trying to see more details. Say at the beginning, say your left foot is touching the ground. Now only say you felt hardness. Now you are trying to check whether you can feel any kind of say heat on the ground, or is it cold. Say you are walking on the tile ground. Now it may be hard, at the same time it may be cold. And again your whole foot, whole sole is not touching the ground immediately. Rather it may be the heel first touching, then the middle, then the toes. So this likewise there are certain more detail available in this process. Now we are trying to catch these details, see these details, know these details. As a result, clear comprehension improves. The sampajanya also improves. So likewise we are using this simple exercise to develop different qualities of the mind. So it is not merely a physical exercise. Yeah.
Venerable Bhante, as per the details of the breath, the non-existent state arose seldom today. However, yesterday as I was practicing Anapanasati, there were a collection of images of people that kept flashing. I wasn't unmindful at the time, as I do not personally know any of these people or their faces that kept coming in flashes. However, it was only yesterday, and fortunately there was no repetition. I would like to know what this signifies. As you mentioned, Bhante, I tried to watch the stillness. The general awareness seems to have improved. Even if a distractive thought arises, they are transitory and I am able to bring the focus to my breath almost instantly. Much respect and gratitude. Thero Nissarana.
Yeah, typically I think I have several times mentioned that. So when your mind calms down, there's a possibility the various perceptions coming up. So these perceptions can come either as sights, as various images, or as sounds, or even as some sort of smells. Say for example, as this question says, so different images coming, different people, faces and such things can come. Maybe skeletons can, such kind of scaring things can coming up. So that is the visual side. Even Buddha images and all these things can come up, pagodas and all these things. But we should understand these are all signs, all nimittas. So signs are not the path. So there is this is somewhat similar to a trap. So if we give any value to it, if we find any interest in these signs, so then we are losing the path. The path is very ordinary, because say for example your breath has very much refined now, very subtle, and it becomes less interested. At that time, assume kind of a very beautiful image appears. Now the typical approach is immediately you look at the image. So ultimately you end up with locked there, end up with again established there. But it's a trap. Rather you have to ignore that and come back to this ordinary refined breath. So that is the restraint we have to have. That is the wise advice we need to follow, where whatever appears really beautiful when the eyes are closed, has different images. They are all traps. You simply have to ignore them. And Buddha says they are very much like a mirage. You know what is a mirage? Even though it appears like water, it is not water. And on the other hand, there can be even various sounds can happen. Say like a very attractive sounds. Like someone may be talking to you, someone may be murmuring to you. So all this you need to neglect because they are not the proper path. But you need to come back to the direct experience. On the other hand, the rest of the experience are quite well. So you continue meditation. So as I said before, so in order to maintain that sort of unassociated state, anisita state, you need fair amount of backing up, fair amount of understanding coming through wisdom, and it may take little time, so nothing to worry. So you can continue your practice again and again when you are encountering this stage. So try to stay there for a while. Say whether you can maintain that for a longer period. So likewise, you have to maximize that stage.
Thero and Saranai, with much gratitude to the advices you provided so far, I again seek your guidance on following. Now with the little improvement I have gained in this retreat, please guide as to how I can continue on a daily basis. Is there any specific order that one must follow, or Anapanasati can be practiced at any time at one's wish? How could one measure the progress as the practice is continuing? I believe there may be ups and downs as we continue on a daily basis. How one can stay energetic during these downs? May you benefit from all these merits.
Yeah, so there are several ways we can measure our growth. Say, as I said in the walking meditation, at the beginning you can't keep your attention on walking. Say it is very neutral, it is not interested, so mind goes here and there. But again and again, since you are continuing your practice, so now it starts to stay with the foot. Say at each sensation you are now trying to keep, but still maybe you are using labeling, left, right, something like that you are still using. If you drop it, again mind distract. So these are the problems you have at the beginning, but later as a result of practice, now say at the beginning suppose you could stay only 5 steps, now you can stay 10 steps. Now you can stay the whole length, say 15, 20 steps. So that indicates there's an improvement. And again, if you can maintain this for a long time, then you can avoid doing labeling. You can simply discard labeling and check whether you can maintain or keep your attention continuously without labeling. So that's another improvement. Suppose you could do that, then mind becomes more lighter, and inner chatter becomes lesser and lesser. And with focused attention, you can see very clearly what is happening when your left foot is touching, what is happening when your right foot is touching, what is happening again when your left foot is touching. So likewise, the clarity improves, more details are visible, and mind prone to less distractions. So these are the indications that you can measure the progress. And on the other hand, if you are sitting, it's somewhat similar. Say at the beginning you can't concentrate on breath, many distractions, but later you can maintain it. Say now mind stays by itself, or you may be using in breath, out breath, that kind of a labeling. Later you can even stop that and see whether mind stays by itself. There are no distractions. So that indicates that mind has now somewhat tamed, somewhat focused. And later even you can see or you can understand the slight differences between in-breath and out-breath. So that indicates the clear comprehension further improves. So your mind becomes very focused, very refined. So now you can see even very subtle details. Now say understanding the difference between in-breath and out-breath is not such easy, because we are not talking about, say, here black color, here red color. That is very evident. But the understanding of in-breath and out-breath, the differences are very subtle. In order to understand such, that indicates the mindfulness has well refined. This is an improvement. And again, say you are capable of seeing how longer it is. Longer in the sense how longer you experience it. Say a particular breath happens, say, for 7 seconds. Another breath happens for 5 seconds. Another breath happens for 10 seconds. Like that, you are not watching the clock. Rather, you can feel. You can feel comparatively this particular breath is longer. Another breath is shorter. Likewise, you can get a feeling comparatively. So this one is longer. This one is shorter. So that indicates that your mindfulness is increasing. So these are the indicators you can use to measure the growth. And to answer the previous question, that is the directly whether we can go to Anapanasati, as we discussed on yesterday. So if your mind is extremely agitated, you are in a bad mood, in a resentful mood, angry mood, so going to Anapanasati would not help. So better, one option is to go for walking. So do some walking and calm down, relax, and again become to the neutral state, and then you can come for sitting, Anapanasati. On the other hand, you can introduce some mindful, some loving kindness meditation, metta, instead of going to Anapanasati, or Buddhanusati, instead of going to Anapanasati, because mind is not settled yet. So this Buddhanusati, metta, actually gives some joy to the mind. So this joy, this positive feeling is much important in meditation. So if you are in a negative mood, therefore introduce these ones instead of Anapanasati, and then when it is uplifted, then start Anapanasati. And on the other hand, if your mind is very lustful, you are burning, on such occasion again taking Anapanasati might not help. There you can introduce, say, Asubha, where you see the loathsomeness of the body. Again your mind will settle. After settling, you can go for Anapanasati. So likewise, based on the state of the mind, you have to select what kind of meditation I have to do. But on the other hand, if your mind is very, very, very settled and in a good mood, then immediately you can go for Anapanasati.
Venerable Gandhi, Nissarana. Question. One sees something delicious or tasty which smells good too. As a result, both Chakku and Gana Vijnanas have arisen simultaneously, but no corresponding Vedana felt on the body due to those, no sensations. However, without the object coming in contact with tongue, Jivha Vijnana, the mouth has started watering. To what would one react and generate? Sankhara, Tanha and Upada. To what would one react and generate? Sankhara, Tanha and Upada. She is giving 3 scenarios. Would it be to the Passa of Chakku Vijnana? Would it be to the Passa of Gana Vijnana? Or would it be to the sensation of mouth watering where the Vijnana or Passa are not involved? Thero Sarana.
So typically there are, if you go to more sort of a academic kind of analysis, the vision does not involve any kind of the real contact. Only the object may be very much somewhere else, and only the rays, the light rays come and impinge your retina, so accordingly kind of an image being created at the eye level. On the other hand, if you consider the jivha, tongue, you need to have the physical contact, then only the real taste being felt. So likewise, these senses are operating in little differently. Even the sound, only a kind of an image, kind of a fraction comes and impinge on the eardrum. It is not the real sound, it is not the real, now say the lightning happens. It is not the lightning coming and hitting the eardrum. It is some sort of a effect, after effect come and making the the impingement. So likewise, there are certain intensities that we have to talk. But I think the answer here is very much to which are you giving more attention, to which you are being drawn. Say typically our eyes are more sensitive, and therefore typically immediately some kind of an attractive object, attractive vision, attractive sight might capture you, but less prone to sounds. But suppose your eyes are closed, then your maybe sounds also coming, maybe little smell also coming, but then you might give prominence to the sound. So likewise, there may be different sort of calibration happen at different these sensors. So mostly we give more prominence to the sights. So therefore, in meditation we are not immediately using sights as the kamatahana. Rather, we take the more less vulnerable object, that is the touch sensation. So anapanasati, rising and falling, all are actually the body related sensations. So that's less prone to defilements. But on the other hand, if you look something, then immediately you are lost. So how karma occurs? So that basically depends on where you lost your place, where you make an eye, where you get involved with, where you start the storytelling, where you get involved. So that is where the karma being generated, the sankhara happens. So when, say for example, your eyes are open, some sort of a color and the shape appears in the eye, immediately you recognize and immediately say you being attracted to that, and immediately say some desire arise. So that means you have lost. That means again eye is there. Now your sankharas are there. Now the karma being generated. But on the other hand, say your eyes are somewhat closed, but there's a kind of a tangible sensation happen, but you are not much interested about that. Then mind is unshaken. Mind stays with you. So no sankharas are generated. But on the other hand, say after fair amount of practice, suppose you still keep your eyes open, still sights are visible, but still mind is not much interested of creating a story. Typically what we call ditta matta. Seeing is just seeing. So you can maintain your serenity, can maintain your mind within yourself. Mind is not drifted towards that object. Then there is no sankhara. You are not fabricating, you are not making a story out of what you have seen. Then no karma being generated. So likewise, so you need to understand where your personality traits are. Are you giving more prominence to sights? Then mostly through the sights you may generate a lot of karma. On the other hand, say you are giving more prominence to sounds, then through sounds you may generate a lot of karma. Just for an example, if you are more fanatic in seeing the TV, going for cinema, going for movies and all these things, then mostly you are into the eyesight. Yeah, you are generating a lot of karma through the eye. On the other hand, you are living in a record bar. Your car is like a record bar. Sometimes three-wheelers are going like record bars in the in the road. So they are in that side. So mostly the karma being generated through the ear, the sound. So likewise we have different preferences towards our faculties, and some maybe they like to wear beautifully, and some might not consider that, and some might want to always apply some what you call perfumes. So they are in that side. So they may generate karma in that side. So it depends on the person where we are generate karma. Yeah.
Referring to the Dhamma sermon yesterday, need to clarify something. During my childhood, I would say I was spoiled by my parents by pouring too much care and love. However, as an adult, I always cherished these memories and treated them with much love and care. Now my parents have passed away, but I still remember how they cared, loved, looked after me with much gratitude. Is it that I am collecting bad karma by cherishing these memories? As a simple example, I did not like to eat fruits such as mangoes and papayas, but they somehow fed me with those. Now, whenever I cut a mango, the memory comes back to me.
Now, typically with the practice, your mind has to be more clear. These images has to disappear. So, say for example, if your mind is very crowded, so it is not clear. The clarity is less. But with practice, we are cleaning our mind. So and less images coming to the mind. Less and less chattering happens. So that indicates, so your mind become cleansed, and clarity improves. So the space also increase in the mind. So you don't need to worry. I mean, these are very sort of innocent kind of situations. So through the practice, allow them to come to the surface, and then simply let it go. You don't need to struggle with this kind of situation, because these are very innocent, kind of a neutral kind of experience. On the other hand, suppose you have something very dramatic experience. Again and again, some dramatic, say, signs coming to the mind, some bad incident happen, again and again it coming to the mind. So then that is more prone to karma, that is more prone to issues. But even through meditation, that too properly has to be acknowledged and has to let go. Say you maintain fair amount of mindfulness, mind is staying in a very neutral state. At that time, suppose naturally this whatever the dramatic incident come to the surface of the mind, so without suppressing it, you have to acknowledge it, you have to be with it, and without feeding it, you have to slowly let it go. So likewise, you have to heal yourself. So therefore, this is kind of a psychotherapy in a way. So where you are healing yourself, and